California Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. We are joined today by Doug Haubert. He is the city prosecutor in the city of Long Beach. He is an elected official for sure. And I want to speak with you about technology and how technology is changing the way we prosecute defendants. Talk to me about what the advances that are coming fast and furious.
Well, we're starting to see more advancement. In general, of course, the public sector is always behind the private sector. And I would even say within the public sector, the courts seem to be even slower than the rest of the public sector. So, for example, the Los Angeles Superior Court seems at least a decade behind in technology. But my office has been working very closely with other departments in the city in order to use technology to more efficiently provide services. I'll give you an example really quick, and this has been of great note here in Long Beach. We've had gang injunctions for years, but the information about the gang members who have been served with the injunction has not been readily available to the police department before we created a database and made that information digitally available to patrol officers. Using technology that was pioneered by Laserfish, which is a Long Beach company.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's based here in Long Beach. And they've helped us create a system so that patrol officers can put the name of a person who's being detained, who's suspected for whatever crime. They put their name into this database and they find out instantly if the person has been served on an injunction and subject to court orders. It used to be you had to go find a gang detective and ask him to look up in a hard file the conditions of the injunction and who's subject to the injunction.
I want to ask you if Long Beach or any jurisdiction with which you are familiar, are they able to accept images, recordings digitally from the public with ease? Because I think about how many crimes are often captured on cell phones. Are you able to receive them with alacrity?
Yeah, Long Beach actually developed its own app, Go Long Beach.
Oh, I like it.
People can take, for example, take a picture of graffiti and instantly send it to the city's public works department to paint out the graffiti. And it has not just the image of the graffiti, but the exact location, and the city cleans it off very quickly. The city has contractors that are designed just to do that, go through the city to remove the graffiti. And that's important because timing's essential when it comes to the removal of blight.
Right.
If that graffiti sits on that wall for a week, the people who live in that neighborhood are seeing what appear to be visual signs of blight in their neighborhood. So this has helped speed that along, and that's one good example of technology not just reducing the number of people necessary to provide a job, but provide better service for less.
So I know, though, that your office deals with misdemeanors, but let's say someone does see a bona fide crime in progress, an assault or whatever it may be, and they're able to get an image of it or a sound recording of it. What can they do today to get that to the proper authority?
Well, when they make a police report, when they give the report to the police officers in the field are trained to gather that data. And this is something that's unique because when I started as a prosecutor 15 years ago, it was very rare that we would have video evidence of a crime. Nowadays, with cell phones, people are taking pictures, they're taking video as things are happening, and so when the police arrive and they take statements from people, not only do they take a statement, but the person will say, I have it here on my cell phone, let me show it to you and record it.
And is the officer able to receive it with ease?
Well, that part is still a little difficult because it's so many different media that's being used. You know, iPhone technology is different than Samsung technology. So I wouldn't say that it's with ease, but we're getting there. Eventually, it'll be more streamlined and easier for the police to get it. But the fact that they're able to do it, they have a technology department where they're able to gather that information, helps make that case a much better case when it goes to court.
What about, and forgive me, as you know, I used to be a full-time practicing lawyer, so a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. But what about, is it chain of custody on evidence? I mean, is there a chain of custody on digital images?
Well, you still need to have the witness, so the witness can authenticate the image. So you ask a witness, is this a video that you took, and is this what you saw at the time that you were watching the event, and they have it. It's better than their memory because it's a recorded memory of what they saw.
Have you had an instance where you've been able to use these kind of video images?
All the time. We use them all the time. In fact, Long Beach Transit was the first one that I know of to put cameras on all of their buses. Now when we have an incident that occurs on a bus, we instantly get the footage, and the footage is quite good. It's very clear. They've got it from many different angles. So I will tell you, with cell phones, the image you get is based on the person that's recording, but the recordings are getting better. the availability of recordings is more prevalent. And I think the police department is far better equipped now than any time in its history in order to gather that evidence and keep it safe for trial.
What's compelling about these advances is we've discussed this. In Long Beach, in Los Angeles County in California, crime rates went down during the recession.
Right.
And there was a lot of confusion. Why is that? Because historically, crime rates would go up during a recession. But what you told me and others told me, a lot of it is because of technology. That law enforcement has had better tools.
Right.
And so that's helped the crime rate drop. Is that fair?
Well, I think it's fair to say the following, and not only was it a difficult time crime-wise because there were a lot of unemployed people,
right,
but the city has fewer resources. It has fewer officers on the street. So using technology allows the few officers you have to do more than they were able to do before. A great example, going back to the gang injunction data that we have, we increased in 4 years the number of gang injunction arrests and prosecutions 700%.
Wow.
It's not because we had 700% more officers. In fact, we had about a 10% drop in officers during that same period of time. So we've got fewer officers making 7 times the number of arrests. That could not have been accomplished without using technology wisely.
I recently spoke with a councilwoman from Anaheim, Gail Eastman, and she recounted that her city has adopted what are known as body cams. Mm-hmm. So all police officers will literally have what looks like a cell phone on their jacket recording every single movement. That's exciting on a lot of levels. I mean, you can't say that there was an excessive use of force if the tape doesn't show that. Do you see that as the future of law enforcement?
Well, clearly it's going to be part of the future of law enforcement. But there's always going to be a certain amount of subjectivity, because what this officer sees may be different than what a person on the sideline sees. So the technology is never going to be perfect, but I will say it's helpful. When you have video evidence of a crime, the person's going to plead guilty. You know, it helps to prove your case, and hopefully fewer cases will go to trial unnecessarily because someone's just going to say, I'm going to refute what the officer says. Well, now it's not just the officer, it's the officer and video evidence showing what happened at the scene. Not just testimony from the officer, but confirmation of what happened.
And at the same time, I would presume that many officers, and I've heard this, prefer having these body cams on their self, because then there's no question about what happened, and they can take pride in their actions, and here it is, rather than have an allegation that I mishandled the arrest or I was beating the suspect.
And I think it will come to fruition. I also think you're going to have a benefit for the public, meaning I think the public will be pleasantly surprised to see how professional, especially in Long Beach, their police force is. So it's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. It's going to take some time to develop the right technology. But you talked about transferring digital files. I mean, servers are now larger than they've ever been. You have a server that's half the size of the one you had 5 years ago that holds 10 times as much data. So the future clearly is going to be using technology more to store data about incidents that happen. We actually transfer files through discovery. Someone can email our office, a defense attorney, asking for discovery, and they get an email back. Prior to using e-discovery, they would have to go to court, file a written request. We would, in writing, respond to their written request, and again, we'd transfer it in court. None of this happened digitally over the internet. It does now. Think of the staff time that saves, and with the paper it saves, the time in court going to and from court it saves. So it's helping everybody in the long run.
So what efficiencies do you see coming in the future? When we talk in 2020?
Well, not just 2020, but in the next year or so, our office, working with the police department, is developing a database of people who have been ordered to stay away from a certain location by a judge. These stay away orders are often verbal, they're in court, and there's no mechanism to follow up on it. So the officer in the field doesn't know that a judge ordered this person, for example, to stay away from this store, stay away from this person, unless it's a formal protective order. So by putting that in a database, officers will be able to do far more than they ever could before with very little money invested into it.
He is Doug Haubert, City Prosecutor in Long Beach. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.